Okay.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the meeting of the Neighbourhood Plan Committee. Today, Monday, the 19th of April. First item on the agenda is apologies for absence. Jodie, who do you have?
Councillor Ian Clark, that's the only one.
I've got Sarah Langton as well, and also Glenn Lambert. Okay, move on to item 2, declaration of interest. Does anybody have any pecuniary interest on any item on the agenda? Does anybody have 4 acres of land anywhere? No, I don't see anybody.
Got a building plot, Ken.
Sorry?
That's a joke. Sorry. I've got a building plot.
Item 3, public participation. I didn't have anybody. Has anybody put the name forward, Jodie?
No.
Okay. I'd just like to read a quick statement out. I'm sure quite a few of you have received this about Lucy's farm. If I could just read a quick statement out. We did have Hugh Archibald from Grays Road a few weeks back, and I tried to explain to him the situation on Lucy's farm, but I'll just read a press release out, and there will be following press coverage and a leaflet circulating about the possible development of Lucy's farm and Gillett's Field. I would like to state that Lucy's farm is not one of the sites that is being taken forward for consideration for development in the revised neighbourhood plan. Site C, playing fields at Gillett's School, is currently allocated for 50 dwellings in the existing neighbourhood plan. This was independently examined and adopted following a referendum in 2016, where over 80% of the residents voted in favour of the plan. We would like to encourage people to attend the exhibition taking place in the Town Hall on the 2nd and 3rd of July this year. This will be an opportunity to see the sites that are being considered for development and get involved with the new neighbourhood plan. Thank you. I think that just covers the leaflets being circulated in Henley. Item 4, to agree the notes of the meeting of the 1st of March 2021. Can I take those as written? Okay, all in favour of that? Okay, thank you. Item 5, update from the planning officer. Jodie, I'll pass over to you.
Okay, thank you. So my main focus since the last meeting has been to review the evidence-based and policy development report that has been produced by ACOM, and this is attached to the agenda and will be discussed under item 8. Also, Community First Oxfordshire have been busy collating the responses of the survey that took place earlier this year, and have provided us with a report setting out the results. At this stage, it doesn't include all the comments. These will be available shortly, and I'll report these back to the committee. With regards to the results of the survey, it was apparent that transport and traffic issues were a concern of the residents. It's therefore felt that we need to explore this further with relevant stakeholders. With this in mind, we will be getting Community First Oxfordshire to run some further focus groups to explore the opinions and ideas for this. These events will feed into the revision of the draft policies and will be taking place in May. I'll circulate the details for this to the committee. Also, I'm proposing to get a small group of people together to finalise the vision and objectives, and hopefully be able to hold that shortly. I'll circulate some dates and see who would like to be interested in being involved with that. That's my update. Thank you.
Is that what we've got to say? Yep.
Yep.
Anybody have any questions?
Yeah.
No. Okay. Right, move on to item 6, updates from the working groups. Have you got anything to say on this, Michelle Thomas? I believe Rebecca was going to do an update on the schools. Over to you, Michelle.
Yes, I've got a small update because you'll remember at the last meeting I went through the findings of the pupil census with you. Well, I couldn't actually share them publicly because that isn't actually in the public domain unless you make a freedom of information. And Rebecca asked if this was a trend that was up and down the country. And so I've looked into some national statistics, and it is true that 2019 was the lowest birth rate reported since the Second World War. However, South Oxfordshire is actually bucking the trend and is above that average birth rate by some significance, which is 1.87 children per woman in 2019, as opposed to 1.65 as an average in England and Wales. So my question is why is Henley-on-Thames not getting a share of that that increase, that trend? And this is all information that's, I've just done desk-based research. It's all out there if you wanted to go and verify the figures.
Well, unless we knock on every door in Henley, we probably won't know the answer to that.
Yeah, it's very, very difficult. Until we get the census figures, which, as we all know, we've all participated in up and down the country in March. Until we get those census figures in a year or two, it's very, very difficult to break it down town by town. This is what I haven't been able to find is more really, really local figures. That just doesn't seem to be available. The best I can come up with is South Oxfordshire District Council as an authority.
Well, other than Henley's probably an older population, that's probably one of the reasons. Yes, it does have yes. Yeah, that definitely is borne out in the research as well. Yeah, over 65s, higher than national and higher than district as well, averages. Okay, I think we'll leave that one there then. Basically, the message to the community is that the schools are not full. Yeah, okay. Yeah. That's fine. The next item, I think we kind of concluded that almost last time, Joan Clark. Sorry,
nothing.
Jodie, sorry.
Sorry, I was just hoping that Rebecca would be here to just update on doctor's surgeries, but I'll just provide that for you. She's been in contact with the doctor's surgeries. The Bell surgery has responded and said that they're able to expand in the future, and they're hoping to build an extension and looking at ways to maximise their space. So there's capacity within that surgery. Okay. Unfortunately, heart surgery has not replied yet, so hopefully we'll be able to report back next time. Thank you. Okay.
Could I just add that when we did it last time, when I was involved in this, they did have capacity, and I don't imagine the situation has changed a great deal at the heart surgery as well as at the Bell surgery. So I imagine when you get your response, it will be similar to the Bell surgery.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Joan. Item 2, that was your one, Joan. I think we said
nothing new to add.
Okay, thank you. Item 3, transport. And obviously part of that is in the ACOM report. Patrick.
Yeah, it's all in the ACOM report. It's all in the ACOM report, essentially. I think it's really up to Jodie as to whether she wants to, whether we handle that all as one. Well, it's up to you, Ken, but I'd ask Jodie's advice as whether she feels we should discuss that in under the ACOM report. Yeah, okay, that's fine. We'll take that later then. Yeah. Car parks, I need to do a wee bit of updating on that now that SODC have changed the charging mechanism
from where it was just Monday to Saturday. It's now Monday to Sunday, but you get the first hour free. So I'll do an update on that one with Jeff. The next one was item little 5, which was new housing permitting development rights, etc. I don't think there's really a lot to add to that one at the moment. Does anybody else wish to speak to that?
Well, yes.
Yeah, David.
Well, as you say, the numbers of windfalls and PDRs are increasing slowly, but the situation hasn't changed much since last December. But in order to reconcile our figures with those produced by SODC, I think we need to ask SODC a few questions. In the local plan, in relation to housing, they use the term commitment. So the first question is, what distinguishes an approval of a planning application from a commitment? What's the difference between planning approval and commitment? The second question concerns the dates. You will remember that for the first neighbourhood plan, it was not possible to count windfalls and PDRs towards the 500 homes allocation. But for the update that we're now in the process of, windfalls and PDRs do count towards the 156, if that's the current figure. So the question is, on what date did the change occur that we're allowed to count windfalls and PDRs? And does that date apply to the date of application of the development, the date of approval of that planning application, the date of commitment, whatever that means, or the date of completion? This obviously has a big effect on which categories, date categories, various developments go into. And as I say, in order to reconcile our figures with those, we need that information. The third question relates to what proportion of the residential rooms in care homes count towards the housing allocation. We were led to believe that it would be 50%, but a recent SODC document that I've seen implied that it would be 100%. I think 100% is unlikely, but it would be good to have the percentage of residential rooms that count towards the housing allocation, have this clarified. Thank you.
I think, let me just take the first one, or the last one first. I'll check on this, but I thought they were looking at the kind of McCarthy and Stone application rather than just a bedroom in a care home.
I'm looking at the Henley Manor care home as a case in point.
Yeah, I'll say if you let me finish. So yeah, that was one that they started off, that one. I'm not sure. I've never asked the question, David, that you've just raised there about care homes, because a care home to me is just a bedroom. It's not a house, it's a bedroom. But I'll ask that question to Ricardo Rios. I think he'd be the one to ask on that. I don't have the answer to that one, David. The other one, the date. I thought the date, and I'd have to check it back again, but I thought the date we were looking at, was it March 2017? I thought that was the date we always were looking for, but I need to check that one back again.
And again,
Jody and Kath, can you remember that? Sorry?
What does it apply to? The date of the application was submitted, the date it was approved?
I think anything that came forward from March 2017, so it could be a planned application. Well, it wouldn't be, yeah, okay. So yeah, so any application that come back and was approved, it obviously wouldn't be a planned application that was refused. So it'd be anything that was approved. I don't know if you can remember, Kath or Jody, what the date was, but I'm pretty sure it was March 2017 was given to us. No,
I'd have to double check. I can clarify a few of the other questions. in terms of it's quite a complex state that the 5-year land supply statement, and that looks at the supply. So in terms of commitment, it includes allocated sites, so those within the made neighbourhood plan, and then it also includes those with planning permission. In terms of those with planning permission, it's as of them being granted, so I think that should sort that out. But it also includes all of those in the current neighbourhood plan that don't have planning permission as well.
Right.
Yeah, so going back to your first question, David, you asked what's the difference between approval and commitment. I would probably say it's the other way around, actually. You know, the commitment.
Well, just explain that.
David, can I just finish? And then, to me, commitment is the 500 or the 450 plus the 50 that were in the original neighbourhood plan. That is a commitment.
Yeah.
Now, what would lead on from there? If one of those sites didn't put in a plan application, it then wouldn't be a commitment, would it? So, looking at the review that we're carrying out at this moment in time, if some of those sites hadn't shown the commitment, we may well have to look elsewhere for properties. Approval, I'm not sure where approval comes into that, really. Approval is only when someone puts a plan application in. So I think I'd go back mainly to the word commitment, and I think that's what we will be looking at in the review of the plan. David.
Well, yeah, approval is the approval of the planning permission, which is an important stage in the process. But Jodie you both explained the difference now. It's commitments include the allocations in the neighbourhood plan, whether or not they've put in a planning application, but for the time being, they're counted as commitments. So that clarifies that. The date of the change of counting windfalls and PDRs, I think, is still very obscure, because if you take, say, Gardner Place and also the Henley Manor care home, these were both submitted for a planning application long, long ago, and don't, on that basis, come into the consideration. But if we're talking about commitments and completions, then because they've only been completed recently, they might well qualify. And it's that sort of ambiguity that I was looking to clear up.
Gardner Place was not in the neighbourhood plan.
No.
And that was planning permission, I believe, was approved even before the original neighbourhood plan.
Yeah, but they've only just been completed.
Yeah, but it was approved before the neighbourhood plan, irrespective of when it was when they were completed. Anyway, let's move on from there. We may have a difference of opinion on that one, David. But I'll find out the other question from Ricardo on what does a bedroom, because I can't believe one bedroom in a care home would be classed as a flat or a house. Let me ask him the question and see what comes back.
Could I just say that, say, for half the people who move into care homes, they'll be releasing a home onto the open market, and therefore I think that was the justification for the 50% allocation as housing, because although, as you say, it's a bedroom, it's occupying a person, and it's releasing, in a number of cases, perhaps half a house onto the open market.
Okay.
I've got the answer to that. I'm just reading their land supply document now. In terms of C2 residential institutions, which we're talking about, they do a calculation based on the average number of adults living in the household according to the census. So for South Oxfordshire, the average number is 1.9 per household. So they apply that when considering the supply.
So that will be roughly half.
Yeah.
50%, near enough.
Okay. Right, move on to little 6, business and community engagement. Who would like to speak to that one?
Yep, so the report produced by Community First Oxfordshire, this is on the results of the survey, and it starts on page 11 of the agenda. And I've also written up a report starting on page 53. This outlines the key headline results from the survey. I'll just go through a couple of those now. So there was a significant expression of support for the neighbourhood plan to consider issues of climate change and in the environment. 87% of respondents felt that the plan should do more to conserve and enhance nature and wildlife in Henley and Harpston. 84% of the respondents were concerned about air and light pollution, and there was also support for the production of renewable energy to make the town self-sufficient. In terms of housing, 244 people stated that they would need housing in the next 10 years. 71 of those wanted smaller houses, 85 wanted detached, and most wanted 2 or 3 bedrooms. Of that, 133 people wanted housing for sale at a cheaper price. We also included within the survey to ask if people would be interested in community-led housing, and we got 187 people respond saying that they would want to get involved. We'll update separately on that later on. Further analysis will now be carried out on the responses from the survey by Community First, and a full report, including the comments, will be brought back to the committee. This evidence will be used to support the policies within the plan. There is a recommendation in there that we resolved to recommend to planning that the survey is taken forward as evidence to support the neighbourhood plan.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, the recommendations on page 55 of your agenda. Unless anybody else would wish to speak on that, I propose that we support that recommendation.
Could I just make a comment to?
Yeah, sure.
Support it. I'm just a bit concerned about how much weight we may be putting onto that report. When you look at the actual numbers of people who responded, and you also look at the age profile, I wonder if it is giving us a distorted view of what Henley as a whole want. Mainly, I'm concerned about the fact that not very many of the younger people actually bother to respond. It's a fairly small proportion of the if you look at the absolute numbers who responded, it's a fairly small proportion of the overall population, and I think it's heavily weighted towards the older end of the population.
Yeah, so coming back on that, we've also tried to get involvement in terms of, for one, the survey, getting it out to every household, and also running those focus groups. So we did 2 last year on climate change, and as part of that, Community First did a lot of updating of their stakeholder and public that they would circulate those details to. So as part of that, we were trying to get harder to reach groups, including younger people. Also moving forward with the transport and traffic focus groups that we're going to be held. We will be trying to circulate that more widely with the schools, and trying to get harder to reach groups. We did do a lot of work on, in the first place, trying to get our consultation database with everybody's details, who we wanted to try and get involved, to include a range of different stakeholders and public. So
now, I know that the effort has been there. I'm just a little concerned about the actual response. I mean, for example, are you likely to need to want a house within the next X years? It's a very, if we're going to be basing our or using this as evidence for the base of how many houses we're going to apply for, it's a really rather small number, and again a self-selecting group, and it may not be characteristic. It may be a grave underestimate of the houses we need because of the nature of the people who responded.
Yeah, so we'll have to use yeah, it's a good point. We'll have to use this alongside
Yes,
other evidence,
yeah,
including
and not too heavily rely on it. My view would be.
okay.
Okay, Patrick.
Jodie, what was the total number of consultees, please?
771, is it?
Of respondents to the survey.
Yeah.
771.
Yeah.
Which is
So it's quite a good response in comparison.
I was going to say that is
got last time. Yeah.
Thank you.
Jackie Walker.
Yes, I wanted to ask a question more overall on the neighbourhood plan being reviewed now is as a result of the housing supply number changing at SODC, etc. But it was also being shown that it needed to be more of a living document rather than the one-time neighbourhood plan that you had, that the referendum was had on. So going forward, would we look at monitoring with surveys to make sure that the neighbourhood plan, if it becomes a living document, is also continuing to reflect the needs of Henley? I know that's a big question and I haven't quite formulated that properly in my head, but it was the right point to ask it, if that made sense.
Yeah, the issue with that, there is definitely important to put monitoring in place to be able to look at that in the future. But bringing this all forward, and then once the plan is made, that is then part of the development plan of SODC, and they use that when deciding on planning applications. And you would have to go through this process to make changes to those policies, or but keeping the evidence up to date, definitely can do that, and monitoring how well and efficient the policies are working, then that is definitely important.
Thank you. I think that's what I was thinking about, was to make sure that the evidence, it's not a one-time event, that we look at it.
I think the amount of work we're doing on this one, Jackie, I think this would be a living document for quite a few years.
Yeah.
I would imagine when this is reviewed again, nobody would have to go into the depth that we've gone over the last couple of years. So my view, it would be a living document for quite a while. Patrick.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think
thank you.
Sitting in the wings is Generic and his team, and quite what form neighbourhood planning will have as we come around to our next local plan revision. Even if there is a local plan revision, it's all up in the air. So I think what we've got to do is focus on this one, do what we can, and just be aware of the changes as they happen to the overall framework that we work under.
Okay, so could I move that recommendation on page 55, item 6, if I can get a second for that? Lawrence, thank you. All those in favour of that, just put your hand up. Okay, thank you, that's carried. The next item little 7, liaison with other parishes, carrying out neighbourhood plan reviews. There's one item which we're going to bring. Oh, sorry about that. Apologies. Where was I? Yeah, item 7, liaison with other parishes carrying out neighbourhood plans. Nothing really, but there's an item we're going to bring in on item 10 on site selection on there. Item 8, review on all existing sites. Basically, same as before. Highlands Farm seem to be building away at the moment, and they are selling properties up there. But other than that, I don't believe any work is being carried out on any other sites, which will bring us back to David's question when we start reviewing the existing sites. Joan Clark.
Question. Did anybody know what's happening on the youth centre? They're painting the boards, the boards around the outside, and I did see what looked like a site hut, but peering through a hole in the wall, I can't see it on the site. It looked as if they were delivering a site hut to the about last week, to the site, but maybe it was for somewhere else, because I can't. I mean, best as I could see, looking through a hole in the fencing, I can't see it on the site. I just don't know if you'd heard anything.
I've heard nothing. It looked like they were doing some gardening down there.
I'm saying they've painted
Yeah.
some, are in the process of painting the outside fencing.
And the way care homes are at the moment, with numbers going down, maybe they are considering what to build there. But yeah, I have no information at all, Joan.
No, because somebody was asking me, I see that they must have got permission because they're working on the site. No. But as far as you know, that's not the case.
They definitely haven't got permission. That's
I looked on SODC site and there's nothing there. Yeah. So right, okay, thank you.
Jodie or Kath, do you know anything?
No. They haven't got permission. So,
no.
Yeah.
No.
Item little 9, industrial land. Nothing else has come forward there other than the Highlands Farm Park. Site selection. Kath, you were just going to make a comment on that.
Hi, yes, I was just going to update the committee slightly tenuously on the Community Land Trust as it sort of ties into the site selection. So as a small group of councillors and non-councillors has been meeting over the last couple of months. We've joined the National CLT network and also got in touch with the Oxfordshire Community Housing Hub to advise us. So we had 187 people from the Neighbourhood Plan Survey who expressed an interest in learning more about community-led housing, and Community First Oxfordshire have now emailed all of those people to ask them to email us at the Town Council, because we have to go around the houses because of GDPR, to ask them to get in touch with us if they're interested in learning more and being involved, and to what level they would like to be involved, as in whether are they interested in moving into a community land trust property, are they interested in possibly self-building if we were to have a site for that, for a community land trust, or whether they're interested in just helping out occasionally, or whether they'd like to be on the steering group. And I think I've got just under 20 people who've come back, which is not that many considering we went out to 187 people, but still some, I think there's some really valuable expertise out there. So we're meeting again this week to discuss how to take that forward, and the Community Housing Hub in Oxfordshire will run workshops to help us work out what expertise we've got and see what the vision for the land trust would be. That was it.
Anybody wish to ask any questions on that? No, okay, thanks for that, Kath. Item 12, Climate Emergency 2030. Patrick, would you like to make any comments on that?
I'd say that it's all down to the ACOM report and how we deal with that, how we handle it. So I propose to defer that to that.
Okay.
Jodie.
Sorry, Jodie.
You missed an item on conservation area review. Can we go back to that after?
Sorry, that's yours. Yeah. Over to you then on that one. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry. So PASAL, who are undertaking the conservation area review, held 2 focus groups, firstly for Henley, and then also the potential for Harpston to have a designated conservation area. Since those events, PASAL have been drafting the revised conservation area appraisal for Henley and have produced an initial report for Harpston. And before I circulate that amongst the group, I want to seek the views of the conservation team at SODC and discuss that further with PASAL.
Has Kester had a copy of any correspondence on this?
No, I haven't, and I'm intrigued by what Jodie's just said. But do I have to wait
Yeah, wait slightly long. Hopefully I'll be able to send you in the before next week or next week. And we can discuss it further then.
There's nothing underhand, Kester. You're okay. I'm in full control.
Good.
I think. Otherwise, I wouldn't have asked the question. If you'd received anything. No, you'll receive it as soon as we have it. Okay, thank you for that one, Jodie. So, Patrick, nothing to add on item 12. Okay, fine. Well, the next item is item 7, Oxfordshire Neighbourhood Plans Alliance. Have you got anything to report on that one, Patrick?
Yeah, only that we were trying to get Sovereign to attend, to actually present at an event that we're running on social housing, and they've declined to do so because they're concerned that it might prejudice a launch of they're launching a new homes and places. They've got a sort of a promotion, if you like. I think still want to keep in touch with Sovereign as a very useful and interesting, quite a progressive provider. But what I will do is, as soon as we get more notice of the ONPA event, I will circulate that to the group and to the officers, to Jodie and to Kath.
Okay. Anybody wish to add anything to that? No. Okay, thank you. Right. The big item 8, transport and environmental policies. Shall I go first to you, Jodie, or to Patrick? Jodie.
Yeah.
Jodie.
Yeah. So you'll find the evidence-based and policy development report produced by ACOM starting on page 57 of the agenda. This is then followed by my report starting on 105. So the first part of this report with the main conclusions has been included within this agenda. The report includes a number of recommendations from ACOM of how to update the draft policies and evidence base to ensure that the neighbourhood plan meets the basic conditions and the plan has a better chance of being accepted at examination. The report focuses on policies for climate change, environmental policies, and the transport policies. ACOM have raised some issues around the proposed draft policies and viability implications, especially around the climate emergency policies and those seeking to reduce carbon emission in terms of how they could be put forward to pass a test of viability in order to be adopted by SODC. They've therefore suggested some changes to these policies, and they're all set out in this report. It also highlights the importance of dialogue with SODC and to ensure that the evidence base is proportionate. So 169 pages, this is a very large report and will require dedicated time to revise each policy, but it is a helpful indication of where we should provide changes to the policies. Kath and Fiona and I have met to consider this report and have decided that in order to bring forward the recommendations set out by ACOM in time for the public exhibitions in July, it will be necessary to split the policies between members of the Neighbourhood Plan Committee and the Climate Emergency 2030 Working Group. I have already notified the relevant people via email who could be involved with that process, but please let me know if you do want to get involved with that or if you have any questions or queries. This will also be discussed at the next Climate Emergency 2030 Working Group meeting, which is due to be held on the 4th of May. There is a recommendation in there, but maybe best for discussion. And if you've got any questions, then just let me know.
Patrick, do you want to speak to
Yeah,
the ACOM report, which is mainly on pages 1 to 47 on the evidence base and policy document, which then refers to the document that Jodie's just been referring to. Patrick.
On the transport policies, it's very obvious that they consider our transport study to be out of date, and that what they're suggesting is that we need to revise that transport study, which is some significant investment. So I think if we are going to put policies in the neighbourhood plan, we're going to have to be ready to accept that we'll be spending money with someone like Peter Brett, whatever they're called now. To update that the evidence for these policies. And I think that's the major concern I have about the transport policies. On the climate change policies, my major concern is the attitude of SODC and some of the statements made by an officer of SODC at an OMPA meeting, which I believe to be wrong. And I would like to get more evidence as to what we can and cannot put in to corroborate or possibly reinforce what ACOM have put in their report. To that end, I would like to consider getting the Centre for Sustainable Energy, Dan Stone from CSE, to review what has been said and to give us his take on it. Now, I appreciate this is additional work, but I am concerned in particular with the development officer at SODC for neighbourhood planning, that it could be prejudicial to the strength and the quality of the policies that we put in. That's really my one concern on the climate policies.
I think on that, Patrick, I'm obviously not aware of that. I think if you could kind of detail exactly what you've heard and what your response is, I think if you can refer that to Jodie, and then maybe she can then take it up with the development officer at SODC.
Yes, okay.
Would that be okay?
Yes, I'll certainly do that.
Jodie.
Yeah, so I'll just come back on those 2 points. Firstly, in terms of the transport study, I have emailed Peter Brett to see how much it would roughly cost to take that forward. And I haven't received that yet, but hopefully we can look at that and consider that further. Also, with the focus groups, that will help feed into that, and that'll be part of the stakeholder engagement process to do that update. Secondly, in terms of seeking some support from CSE, I know that their free and updated support package was up for renewal in April. So I'll try and get some advice from Dan Stone whether he can support us through that. Thank you.
I see the Climate Working Group meeting on the 4th of May. Could this be a discussion point there?
Yeah. Yes. Obviously, I'm concerned, and I think Jodie, Kath, and Fiona are concerned that it's all moving on very quickly, and we're moving towards this July date. So we want to try and get stuff rolling as soon as possible. I'm not sure whether we've got an informal meeting of the Climate Working Group before that, because it'd be quite good to bring it up at that and to preempt, so that we've got some idea of what's in hand there.
Can either Kath or Jodie answer that question?
I think it needs Fiona, actually.
Yeah, it would. Yeah, I do want to just reinforce the point of there is quite a tight deadline in terms of updating the policies before the exhibition, and that's putting pressure on us to make those changes.
Yeah, Patrick.
Could I ask Jodie that you talk with Fiona about that and see whether we can accelerate the involvement of the climate working group?
Yeah, I'll do that.
Okay. All right, Patrick. Okay, thank you. Does anybody else wish to mention it? If not, I'll put forward the recommendation on page 107, item 6, that the Climate Emergency 2030 Working Group and Neighbourhood Plan Committee members integrate the conclusions and recommendations of the EBPD report into emerging draft policies for the neighbourhood plan. Second for that? Patrick? Okay, all those in favour of that? Thank you, that's carried. Item 9, project timeline, which you've, in the cold light of day, we can read. It's on page
109.
109. Actually, it's on 107. Is it? Anyway, 109. Jodie, would you like to speak to that?
No, it's just to note that really, and just to see that the exhibitions are there in July. They've been moved since the last Neighbourhood Plan Committee meeting, and also that the pre-submission consultation is scheduled for shortly after that in August, September time.
I was saying before, the exhibition, a few of us need to sit down and work out how this is going to work on the days. This is due on the 2nd of July, Friday the 2nd of July, on Saturday the 3rd of July, and hopefully we could probably sit around a table in the town hall, maybe at the beginning of June, and just work our way through that. But I think that's the big important item on the timeline at the moment that I can see. Anybody else wish to comment on that? Okay, we take that as accepted. Item 10, next steps. Jodie, I have to move to you again.
So the main things are to review the policies and evidence base in line with the ACOM report. Hopefully we can get the Climate Emergency Working Group and get that started as soon as possible. Also preparing for the exhibitions and pulling together a questionnaire to hand out for people to get involved on the 2 days. They're the main things at the moment.
Okay, thank you. And we'd probably need a help on those days for members of the committee. But so we're carrying more work out on that over the next few weeks. Anybody else like to speak to the item? Next steps? I see no one.
Ken, just one thing.
Yeah, Patrick, sorry.
I think if we are going to have members of the working group there, I think we need to have a very strong whip, or certainly good education beforehand.
Yeah, absolutely.
About what we say about sites.
Exactly. Well, I don't think you say that. I don't think it's up to us to give advice on sites. I think that would be up to I think what we were hoping to do is do a brief as the public enter the room, and maybe give them a copy of the brief with a questionnaire. And then after they've been round and looked at everybody's presentation, they then fill in a questionnaire at the end of the day. But I don't think it's up for members of the working group to explain one site from the other. I think that's up to the presenters, or that would be my view at the moment. Patrick.
Yeah, just to say that I've already had my ear bent by a few people about sites and had to say no comment. So I think it will happen. People will automatically gravitate towards people that they know, and then try and bend their ear about sites that they've seen. You know.
I'll take Jodie, then I'll take David.
Yeah, I can provide some guidance notes for everybody that's going to attend, and just do some FAQs of expected questions and answers, so that we're all singing off the same hymn sheet. Yeah.
I'll take David Whitehead, then Lawrence.
Yeah, it occurs to me that the responses that you get to this consultation after the exhibition will depend to some extent, at least, on the wording of the questionnaire. So whoever drafts that has an influence on the outcome. Who is going to draft it?
So Community First Oxfordshire have drafted that, but as with me as well. So I've been looking at that to ensure that that is correct, because as you say, it's very important that that gathers the correct information and what we can actually use moving forward for site selection. I will bring that back to Neighbourhood Plan Committee for your review as well.
Yeah, I don't think it's up to individual members of this group, David, to guide residents to certain areas.
No.
I think that's the last thing we want to do, is predetermine. Otherwise, we won't be lasting much longer on this committee. Lawrence.
I was just to follow up on Patrick then. So at the moment, are we no comment on all of these sites if we talk to members of the public? I'd hate to say I haven't been like that, but
I think you can explain to them what very briefly what the site is, but I believe it's down to like we've already listened to the presentations which we did a few months back with all the developers or landowners. My view, it's up to them to sell their piece of land. It's not up to us to do the work for them. I think our work takes place after the consultations all taken place, and then we sit down and work through each individual piece of land, the information we've had from the likes of ACOM and whoever, and then there will be, I would suggest, a working party that would put sites forward. Then it's up for this neighbourhood plan working group to select them, and that will go to planning, and then that will go to I would suggest that it goes to Harpston Parish Council for their view, Henley Town Council's view, and then hopefully between us we can then rubber stamp it. That would be my view anyway. Patrick.
Are they presentations that we've already had in the public domain, or are they?
Yeah, they were available at the time. We'll make sure that they're available again as part of the exhibition, because we want to be able to ensure that everybody can get involved. So as well as doing the exhibitions in the town hall, people will also have the opportunity to get involved online with surveys, so they don't actually have to attend the event on the day.
So I think what we do is make as much information as available as we can. Yeah. Jackie Walker.
Just following on from Patrick, that was going to be my question. If there was a reason why the videos of the presentations did not remain available, but from what you've said, Jodie, they will be coming back as part of the exhibition so that people can view them again.
Yeah.
Kath.
Just to say, they didn't stay up online because some of the promoters had expressed concern about their staff being on the internet freely available for an extended period of time.
Yeah.
So that's why we put a time limit on it. Yeah. But we still got them all, they're just hidden on the council's YouTube channel at the moment.
Thank you.
Okay. I've got nothing else other than the next meeting, unless anybody else has anything particular. The next meeting I'm going to propose, it's not going to be a Monday. We did suggest the 17th of May, but that's mayor making. And then the following week I'm not available, unfortunately, although my deputy's here. I was going to suggest Thursday the 20th of May. Thursday the 20th of May at 3 o'clock. Would that be okay for everybody? Michelle?
I can't make Thursdays, but please go ahead without me if everyone else can make it.
Well, let's see if anybody else is not available as well. Thursday, the 20th of May at 3 o'clock. Yeah?
Yep.
Okay, we go for that one then. Okay, thank you. I've got nothing else to add. Thank you all for attending today, and we'll keep passing information to you as long as you've got somewhere to store it all away. I see Patrick has anyway.